Hey, welcome to the show. This is Steve Cloward, your host. And today I've got a great man who's a veteran. He's a great podcaster. He was an addict. He's dealt with PTSD, all sorts of issues. Just recently met him, and somebody that I have immense respect for, even though I don't know him really well yet, but I can tell that there's a lot of similarities, probably to our stories, but also to the things that we care about. And that's God, faith, family, freedom. And so I want to welcome Richard Kaufman to the show.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you so much. And it's such an honor to be able to call you friend.
Oh, likewise. And I appreciate your time, man. This is, if you're like me, and I think you are, just a little bit we've talked, we enjoy doing this. We enjoy getting our stories out, and our goal is to really just help other people, because that's something that I don't care who you are. That's something that at least I believe when we're helping others, there's nothing that makes you feel more fulfilled, or grateful is when you're able to really make a difference and help somebody.
Yep. And, I've been in, I think I just celebrated 33 years. And
Wow.
in the rules, they talk about paying it forward.
Yes.
You can't keep what you can't give away. So I think that's, me and you can vibe because we're trying to do the same thing, just trying to help another addict.
Exactly. Yep. And, with what's going on in the world, especially these last couple of years, it was already a huge problem, but I believe there's more of it going on, and I believe it's going to get a lot worse. And so I think that guys like you and I and others that are in our circles, and we need to really just step up our games and start really reaching out, because I think there's a lot of people in a lot of pain. They just don't know where to turn. I got sober back in July of 2000. And there was times I would drive to work, just bawling, cause I was sick and tired, but I just didn't know where to turn. It wasn't as open and talked about. It was once I, got sober and I attended AA for years. It was something that it changed everything. And so if anybody out there is listening is in that spot, and even if it's not drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's anything, just a trial, something difficult, Richard and I are a little bit older. We've got some years under our belts, and we've experienced a lot. We don't have all the answers, but I know that he has a similar heart, and we'll sure give it our best and give you all we got to make a difference. But don't be afraid to reach out. That's the biggest thing. Pride got in my way. How about you?
Oh, my uncle used to call me knucklehead, because I would always try the hardest way to do something. You can give me an easy way to do it, and I'm going to try the way to do it. So for me, I always had to stumble my toe a bunch of times until I started hurting too much to ask for help. So now I just ask for help before I stumble my toe.
Exactly. Yep. Same here. Well, let's talk a little bit about your story. Give us a little bit of your background, kind of how you grew up, maybe what you feel or know, whichever, that maybe created some of that stuff. Did you have issues with addiction or alcoholism prior to your service? And what was it that kind of, helped you get sober?
All right, I'll give you a quick down and dirty. Now there's 3 separate parts to my story. A lot of people think it's a great story. I think it's just my story, but I grew up. My mother was an addict, but thank God, I think she just celebrated 27 years clean. So she got clean after I got clean. Dad left when I was 3 months old. So mom was a shift nurse, and you know how nurses work. They're always weekends, holidays. So I was pretty much growing up with babysitters, left to my own devices. Had my first drink at 12.
Wow.
Full-blown alcoholic by the age of 13. Like I said, I was a full-blown alcoholic. So I became an emancipated minor at the age of 16. Joined the military at 17. Just because I figured, hey, if I'm going to party, let me get paid to party. So I joined the Army, and I lasted 2.5 years, got in a lot of trouble. So eventually they threw me out for being an addict, an alcoholic.
Wow.
So that's, then I got arrested. It was New Year's Eve, 2080, 1988. Duh. And a friend of mine owned a bar. He was a police officer. He asked me to bartend, and everything's going great. Everything's going smooth. I start drinking. 8 hours later, he comes knocking on my door with 3 of his buddies coming to lock me up because I robbed the place.
Oh, wow.
I gave away like $2,000 worth of free drinks. Had like $5,000 in my pocket. But now, like we were talking about earlier, not always being a knucklehead, waiting for somebody, to doors to open. And for some reason, the police officer that I robbed actually gave me a break.
No
He
kidding.
said, "You're 20 years old. You're a white kid. You're skinny. If you go to jail in New Jersey,
You're in trouble.
be somebody's bitch." He's like, "So I'm going to give you a break. I want you to get my money back in 24 hours. You got to, I don't care how you get it. Just don't steal it." So I begged, borrowed, and he said, "You need to hit 90 meetings. 90 meetings of AA."
Yeah.
It was court ordered.
Okay.
So I hit like 300 in a row. Haven't had a drink or a drug since. But what happened was my uncle that bailed me out, right before he left the door, he said, "You know what? I knew you weren't a military man. You didn't have it in you." And for me, that broke my heart because he was the man I looked up to.
Yeah.
He was a Korean War vet. He was actually, he was like 5'5", but he was the boxing champion of the military in Korea. And for him to say that, it really ate at me for like 8 months. So I'm the only guy you're ever going to talk to that gets thrown out of the military. And gets back.
Wow.
Got back in, and I was still getting a lot of trouble. I just wasn't drinking.
Was it hard to get back in? Were there any issues because of what happened before?
I had to go jump through hoops. I had to get people to sign for me. I went through so much stuff to get back in.
I bet.
So I joined the National Guard. And of course, me being a wise mouth kid from Jersey, still got a smart mouth, moved to South Carolina National Guard. And I got in a lot of trouble. Now, if you guys been in the rooms or AA or not, there's a difference between being drunk, being sober, and being dry.
Yeah.
And I was living a dry life, which means, for my opinion, being dry means you're an asshole that doesn't drink.
Yeah.
Being sober is you're just not an asshole anymore. Yeah. And you don't. So they were due to throw me out for the second time at the end of September of 2001. But as we all know what happened that day, and I want you to picture this, bro. I'm getting ready to be thrown out, so I'm watching everything that's happening on the TV.
Yeah.
And back then there was no editing. It was live.
Yeah.
And you actually seen bodies hitting the ground, and you seen them pulling bodies from Pentagon, and all my stuff was to the right of the TV. So every time, and I'm seeing them pulling the soldiers out of the Pentagon, and my whole life I crumbled inside the couch. And I said, Lord, just give me another chance, please. And because, as addicts, we're the biggest bullshitters in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And, and my first sergeant, my company commander, they heard it all before. But when I called them, I said, I'm serious. I want another chance. And I went in there and I actually begged them.
Yeah.
And they decided to keep me. So they didn't throw me out, but they busted me all the way down to as far as you can go. Within 3 years, I became Soldier of the Year. I became an officer. And then that's the last part of my story is I moved to New Jersey. I joined the New Jersey National Guard. And my first drill, we're driving down the highway. One of the Humvees, the big Humvees.
Yeah.
Broke down. So I had to pull it off the side of the road. And I had to have my driver back me up. And I guess he must have got confused in the hand and arm signals. And instead of him hitting the brakes, he hit the gas.
Oh, no.
The right side of my body, ran over my head.
Oh, gosh.
Caused me to have an ocular stroke. So I went blind. And obviously, if the military, you can't see, you can't shoot.
Right.
We don't need you. So after a year and a half, they decided to medically discharge me on Memorial Day 2012. And that was the day that I attempted suicide because I didn't know who I was.
Right.
Here I am. I get my life back, and I'm trying to be the ultimate soldier.
Yep.
I'm no longer Richard. I mean, I'm no longer Sergeant Kaufman.
Dude, that is such a big thing. I had a chief of police on last episode, same thing. And I went through that myself, and that is real stuff. I think that needs to be talked about way more often amongst men, because for some reason we attach our identity to exactly what we're doing in our career and stuff. And that, when that's taken away, it's brutal,
And I didn't know who Richard was. And I was scared. I attempted suicide. And I talked about it in my book, but thank God I didn't go through with it. And that was that Monday, Memorial Day I guess it was the Monday afterwards, is when I started going to therapy. And I've been clean. I mean, I've been in therapy for the last 12 years. And
wow.
During that time that, I'm in, because they put you in something called the Warrior Transition Unit, which means they give you a year to find out what they're going to do with you. And a lot of guys would just sit down there and play cards and play, poker. And
yeah,
I got bored. So I started reading self-help books, and I kept hearing his name, Gary V, until I realized his father's liquor store 20 minutes from my house.
No kidding.
So I called him up. I said, hey, this is Rich, and I worked for GNC. So I was like, this is Rich from GNC. When's Gary going to be there? He's like, he's going to be here Tuesday. All right. I said, I'll be there. Let him know I'm going to be there. So we actually got a chance to sit at lunch.
And how many years ago was this?
This was
20 years ago?
No, this is 3 years ago.
Oh, just 3. Okay.
So he's the one that started the whole comeback coach. He's the one that started the podcast, the book. It's all because of Gary.
Dude, that is so cool.
So now that, that's what my book just hit #1 twice in substance abuse.
Right on, bro. What's the name of the book? I'll have all this in the show notes too, by the way, folks, so that, if you don't have something to write this down, I'll have it all in the show notes so you can pick it up down there.
Called A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So, now I'm just paying it forward and trying to, like you said, trying to help as many addicts as I can. So whatever questions you got now, I'm good.
Dude, that is incredible. I mean, so when you got, run over and stuff, so you've been sober how many years now? A few decades, right?
33.
So, I mean, as a recovering addict, I know how difficult it can be. And I also know what triggers create issues and why we end up using, and whether it's drugs, whether it's food, whatever, it's what's underneath, what is causing that. It's not because we're both dumbasses so we want to take drugs.
Well, for me, and I was talking to Brock, and I was on his show, and he said, well, what made you, can you remember the first drink? And I said, I can remember the first drink I ever had. I said, I turned red. And I said, I became I went from Richard to Rick. I could be what I wanted to be. I had no fear.
Yeah.
I was able to talk to people. So I think that for me, that's why I really started to like to drink, because I didn't have to be Richard.
I totally relate to that. Yeah.
Richard to the side and created this guy named Rick. You know what I mean?
That makes total sense, because that's what pills kind of did to me. I'm not the guy that's going to go out and just introduce myself and be the extrovert. I'm more of an introvert. I mean, once I get to know people and stuff, then I can hang with the best of them I feel like, but that was exactly me. It took down some of that, social anxiety, whatever you want to call it, insecurities, whatever it is, let's be real. And exactly what did for me, I was blessed, I guess, that number one, I didn't die, but I was a functioning addict, but so what, was there something that triggered you to stop? I mean, you obviously,
Well, I knew, again, and I just did a post this week. I knew that, okay, I was 20 years old and I'm still hungover from the night before. And this cop just told me, I'm either got to sit in this room for 90 days, eat nasty cookies, drink stale coffee, and hang out with these guys that are like 50 and 60 years old,
right.
old curmudgeons, or I go to jail and be somebody's bitch. So it's kind of like, all right, which way am I going to take? But then after I started going to that meeting, I started realizing, wait a minute, these are my people. They know exactly how I feel, no matter what age. They know, for alcoholics, we all know what we're all going through.
Yes.
And there's no judgment because we're all fucked up.
That's the most beautiful part of AA to me. I grew up in a religious family, and I often compared it, or I would tell people, it's like there's so many facades that we all create as human beings, especially, at least my experience, this is my experience in the church I attended for years. And we're all being fake, really. And there's judgment, there's gossip. And all of a sudden now I'm going to AA and there's people from all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody, everybody loves everybody, literally. I mean, you can feel it. You know what I'm talking about. And there is no judgment. Even if somebody relapses that comes back, we're there with open arms. Where my experience with, outside of those rooms and whether it doesn't matter what religion or just, I think it's somewhat unfortunate in society, there's that judgment and that's people talking down, and stuff. And that was the best thing for me was going in those rooms. There were some amazing, amazing people,
I mean, like I said, I got 33 years and I still go, but, like 3 years ago I was on somebody else's podcast and they challenged me. No, and it was actually them and Gary challenged me. We were talking and he's like, I want you to do something for me. I'm like, what, Gary? He's like, I want you to write all the dirty shit you've ever done and put it out in a book and publish it. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, why? He's like, because you want to make a difference in this world.
Yeah.
But he's like, I want you to go watch that movie 8 Mile with Eminem.
Yeah.
And I watched the last 2 minutes. He says, I want you to do that. So nobody will ever be able to tell you, you're a loser because I already know that I was an addict, but
right.
Now I know that I was a bad person, but now I got a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful children. So you can't really say anything about me. I already said it.
That's right. That's some great advice there, and, my experience has been when we do that, like even from a standpoint of posting on social media, when we're being real and telling the ugly truths, that's what actually makes the difference because you're being authentic. It resonates with the people that, understand or that are dealing with it. And those are the things that get the most engagement, And so I think that just comes full circle, even from an AA standpoint versus outside in different, rooms, whether it's religious or otherwise. That's authenticity in those rooms, Yeah. And that's what I think makes a difference and reaches and really impacts, our lives to be able to really have the chance to get sober and want to stay sober.
Yeah. But, but now that I'm also in the coaching business also, so, I also tell people, I can help turn your life around in 90 days. 90 days guaranteed I can help turn your life around, but you got to put the work in.
That's right.
And I tell them, if you could do these 3 steps that I learned from the program, I always give credit to Mr. Bill W.
Amen. Yep.
One is you have to forgive everybody that hurt you. Not forget.
Right.
There's a
big difference.
Ask for forgiveness for all the people you've hurt.
Yep.
Which is a big one. But the third one, I don't think we really talk about too much, is forgiving yourself.
That's it's the one that held me back, dude. The biggest one.
You know, I mean, because like I always picture a guy walking on a treadmill, and he's got a big rucksack on, but he's constantly throwing bricks.
Yep.
It's going to overpower you. You're not going to be able to walk anymore. So, you know, why don't you just, you know, get that forgiveness stuff out of your, you know, in your life and start becoming free a little bit. And once you can forgive yourself, because a lot of first responders, veterans, we see shit that nobody else really is supposed to see.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't really think about it because we, you know, great thing about addicts, first responders, veterans, we compartmentalize.
Yeah.
We're like, I'll do that shit later. It's not important now. But eventually when a police officer or a firefighter or a veteran retires, now they're alone with their thoughts.
That's right.
And the gun and maybe some alcohol in their hand. So if they started forgiving themselves at a younger age, maybe we would be able to save somebody's lives.
Bingo. Yep. Yeah, it's amazing how I mentioned the gentleman I had on was the chief of police, and I won't get into the details, but bottom line is someone came in, told the lieutenant or whoever that he had dropped his 6-month-old baby in a pond, yelled down the hall. The chief took off. Baby was in the pond for 7 to 10 minutes. By the time they got there, he said, didn't even know if it's a child. It was just white. He thought it was a porcelain doll. Long story short, saves him. But because as he was walking down the hall, he saw the father. He didn't know that was for sure, but he assumed that was who it was. And he said, as he walked by, he locked eyes, and he said it was just, the guy was soulless and empty. Anyway, as he came back, entered the police department again, there's 2 doors, he says. The second door, you have to punch in a 4-digit code, period. There's no way to get in without it. He doesn't remember punching that in or anything. The next thing he remembers getting pulled off of the guy. Guy lost his career and everything because he beat the shit out of the guy, you know, and ended up getting federally indicted. They took it federal anyway. You know, he obviously, we talked about exactly what you're talking about. That I've been through it. I'm sure you have, where when we get in that dark spot, the worst thing we can do is be alone. That isolation and those stories that we have we continue to build on them. And when you're sitting alone with your thoughts, that is the most deadly place to be. I mean, so to me, you just said the most powerful thing that anybody listening, that's when you've got to just push through and reach out to someone like Richard, reach out to someone like me, reach out to whoever. You've got to have, you've just got to be able to go through that, because I remember sitting in an office after what I went through and stuff, and I was so depressed that I snuck a pad out of my house, a blanket and a pillow, and I would, the days my wife did not work, I would get up, act like I'm going to work, go into that office, lock the door, strip down to my underwear basically, and go to sleep as long as I could till usually, 1 in the afternoon, because I was so depressed. The days that she did work, I would get up acting like I was getting up and getting ready to go to work. As soon as she was gone, went right back to bed. I mean, that stuff's real. That depression stuff is real. And, don't ignore it, and don't, it's easier said than done, but that's when you got to just reach out. You're worth it.
Yeah.
Period. You got to believe you're worth it.
The last 2 chapters of my book, they're about, what does addiction look like? Not what you think it looks like.
Yeah.
And what does depression look like? And not what you think it looks like. Because sometimes it could be totally the opposite. For me, I think of, what did Mrs. Williams think when her husband came and kissed her goodnight that night? Did she think everything's okay? He's all right? Mm-hmm. And then in the morning, they find Mr. Robin Williams hanging in the closet.
Right.
If she would have just known the signs.
Exactly.
Maybe he'd still be alive. And I think that talking about it is what is going to, bring it to the forefront of the world of what, we're losing right. People checking out all these people on TikTok, committing suicide. I mean, it's crazy how many people are committing suicide these days.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going through the roof. It's already horrific numbers with vets. I mean, it's been a few years since I was really paying attention. I know it's gone up, but I think it was 8 a day back when I was involved with some stuff, with some organizations, and I bet it's way worse than that now.
Well, now it's, just for military,
right?
It's they're reporting 22 a day,
That doesn't surprise me. That's crazy. You
but
know,
with only 50% of states reporting suicide.
that's just
But now
crazy.
think of this crazy number, because now I just got a position in town. I'm the municipal alliance coordinator. So we're the program we used to call DARE back when I was a kid.
Yep.
I'm in charge of that for the town.
Oh, right on.
There's 5,000 adolescents a day that commit suicide, that attempt suicide every day.
5,000.
5,000 every day in the United States.
Wow.
So those are the numbers that we're looking at. So what we're doing, getting this into people's ears, that's what people need to hear, not the other crap.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I've done a lot of research the last couple of years with what's gone on in the world, and I've learned a ton about social media, the negative side of it, and to the point where my youngest is 17. I've got 5 kids; they're all older, but I worried about her, so I finally sat her down and talked about it because, it's not really reality, most of it, and it creates this false sense of what others' lives are like. And especially as younger kids, start comparing themselves and who they are or who they aren't, what they have or don't have. It's like social media, for the most part, it seems like is a highlight reel rather than, like you and I putting some real stuff out there sometimes. That's the stuff that matters. And
well, most social media is, 99% is everybody is showing their best.
Exactly. Just the highlights. Yep.
The best filters.
That's right.
Driving the nice cars or going to the nice places. Where, like, I put a post out the other day. I showed a picture of the room where I was in for 2 years when I would come home from school and cry every day in my room. And I would actually lock myself into the closet. That's real shit.
Exactly.
The real stuff.
Yep.
That's what's happening all around the country today. And that's why this is what we're doing, is we're actually, letting people know, okay, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
Like, my dad is about to pass probably in the next week or so. And it's got me thinking, I have, I don't know, I think like 5,000 followers on Facebook and,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But in the end, it's going to be the people that are going to be around me when I breathe my last breath that actually matter.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
It's all about relationships, man. That's what it comes down to. And that's, I believe, even though we're going through some incredibly difficult stuff and those numbers are horrid and they're going to get worse before they get better, but I do have the faith and the belief that much more positive is going to come out from this, because of what you just said. I think more people are waking up to what really matters, and what really matters is family, friends, love. We've got to get rid of this hate. We've got to get rid of this divisiveness. We are all brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are, what your skin color is. That's all just BS. That's intentional. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but to create divide, as that flag behind you, to me, those freedoms are at stake, and that is badass, man. I love that cross in the middle there. That's just kick ass. Those are the two, there's our faith and our freedom. Now we got family, friends. What else? Nothing else really matters, and we have to see that. I think we're seeing some amazing stuff. And like I say, this isn't about politics. It's not where I want to go, but you see what's happening in Canada and the unity of all those people. I literally thought, as I was seeing some of those highlights over the weekend, all these different walks of life and all these people coming together. It's just like the AA. So if you strip it all back and we get down to the real raw stuff, we do have that unity, we do have that love.
I tell everybody, I wish we can go back to September 12th of 2001.
Amen. Bingo.
Everybody was an American.
Amen.
No color, there was no race, there was no creed, there was no, they sold out of flags within 24 hours. I mean, obviously what happened was horrible, but that day the country was more united. I think that You know what I mean? And I think we got to
Absolutely. Never.
get back to saying, like my best friend, he's a Democrat. I'm a
Yeah.
Republican. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And we should be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee.
Exactly. Why is it?
What's the problem?
Yeah, it's just assumed hatred and you got to bang heads against each other, man. That's healthy to have, discourse and have different opinions and views, but we can't be so brainwashed, in my opinion, that we're so closed-minded that it's one way or the highway. No way. We all have good ideas. And once again, well, we need to end this here because, like I said, this is a subject I'm pretty passionate about, but that division it's pathetic. It's a joke and it's intentional and it's really not there.
If you guys are listening to this, if you've never been to an AA meeting, you got to go. I mean, even if it's an open meeting, because there's something to say at the end of a meeting. Amen. When everybody is holding hands towards prayer.
That's right.
There's nothing like it, period.
Right.
And and that's when you realize, all right, we're all in the same boat together.
Yeah, we're all in this life together. So let's, it's tough enough. So if we unite and work together and, care about each other, it makes it that much easier,
Now, like for me, like you said, I'm a stepfather. I hate to use that word, but I got 2 kids. My daughter's 10 and we have a son and 2 sons. And when we first got together, I would go to AA meetings, but every time I went to a meeting, I would bring home cupcakes, just so they associated with anytime they heard AA or a meeting or addiction, they something positive. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Get back to that to start thinking, maybe it's okay for somebody to be in recovery, because recovery is the best thing I think anybody could be in.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Then you become self-aware, and then that's when you're like I tell everybody, not following the 12 steps led me out of my home.
Yeah.
Following the 12 steps led me into my new home.
Yeah.
I
love that. That is very cool. That's it. You nailed it. It's like, it's not weak to talk about weakness, that we think is weakness. That's not weak. Why is it that we think it's weak or embarrassing, to cry? Why is it that we think it's weak to admit that we're struggling and depressed? That's all just BS, because if everybody admitted it, everybody has that struggle at some time or another. Nobody believes 100% all the time, in themselves and who they are and what they do. And, it's just part of it.
Like even in the Bible, Jesus, that said that Jesus was meek. He wasn't weak.
Yep.
So the same guy that was holding children and lambs was flipping concrete tables in the tabernacles.
That's right.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can be a badass without having like you're a badass.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. So what you've got your podcast, Vertical Momentum, right?
Yep. Let's go. What happened was, because like I said, I'm a low-tech redneck. I had like 250 episodes of my other show. It was called Success, Your Why Powers Your How. Until one day I realized it's not on Apple. And Apple had like 98% listenership.
Yeah.
It wouldn't let me put it on Apple because I had so many episodes. So I started over, and that's when I started over with the Vertical Momentum Resiliency podcast. And my podcast it's about resiliency, whether it's in life or business. Because now a lot of people are struggling because they lost their businesses because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I have people that and I've had everybody on from General Petraeus all the way to football players, Randy Couture, Diamond Dallas Page, Mick Foley. I've had these guys come on because they're telling their stories. Everybody's story.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Has to show up. All right. Everybody has a story. So maybe my story might not resonate, but yours might.
Yeah.
That's why I started the Vertical Momentum podcast.
Dude, that's awesome. That is great. And that's the thing. Like you say, everyone has a story because everybody has trials. That's just what life is. It's how we deal with them. And, you know, I wouldn't be where I'm at or wouldn't have had the growth that I needed. And I still have a long ways to go. I think that's a lifelong process. And had I not been through the addiction and then the indictment and prison and all that stuff, you know.
But you don't, and you don't know unless you get a chance to interview somebody and ask them the questions. Like I had Sharon Lecter,
oh yeah, she's a killer.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
But I know that her son was a member of the 22.
Really?
Before it just came out when we were talking. And, you know, so she was telling me her story of being a Gold Star mom. So, you know, but then I also I had one of the Iron Chefs on last week, and he was telling me, I don't talk about this much. He said, but I was actually on the ledge ready to jump in when I was in Paris, but I didn't do it. He's like, so I'm battling depression too. So for me, everybody, no matter who it is going through a struggle.
That's it.
So it's my job just to make, you know, try to get them to tell their story. They call me the male Oprah. So that's why I'm able to get people to talk about it.
Awesome. That is so great though. But that's the thing, you know, somebody that watches the Iron Chef, you know, would only have a certain perspective of that person and think that, oh, they've got it great. Look at them on TV, etc. Never know that stuff. And that's important that stuff gets out there. Because like I said, everybody has a story, you know, and that's why I think it's important that we talk about it and talk about it way more often. And, you know, those people listening that, you know, have something that could make a difference, that have pushed through something, you know, reach out to us. Would love to talk to you because that stuff matters, you know, whether it's somebody that now is in the public eye or somebody that nobody even knows it, you know, certain people are going to resonate with all types of different people from different lifestyles, you know.
And I think everybody that I know, besides, you know, me, they're touched by addiction somewhere.
Amen.
And I'm thinking because in New Jersey, they're made it illegal. So now you're going to have, I think you're going to have treatment centers are going to be going crazy in the next 5 years. Now that they start by marijuana. Yeah. I think it's just about to break loose.
Yeah, it's crazy. Wow. So what, tell me a little bit about your coaching program.
Well, what I do is they buy the book. If they like what I say in the book is 1097. 22% of the proceeds go to help and veteran homelessness and PTSD. And then if they want to work with me, I got a 90-day program that I work with them. If they live in town, I mean, I'll actually go to meetings with you.
That's cool.
Actually, you know, I'll actually do the work. You know, if you need to get the 4th step done, 5th step done, I'll do that for you. But a lot of times, you know, you'll go to say a Tony Robbins. I'm a big Tony Robbins guy.
Yeah.
But you get home and then you're like,
now what?
What do I do now?
Exactly.
And I started doing it, and some people in the programs gave me shit. But I'm like, okay, you get a guy that goes to me. Like I went to the same AA meeting. And it was a men's meeting, and I went like every Sunday for like 6 years.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of the 6 years, I'm like, I know exactly who's going to speak every week.
Yeah.
I know exactly, you know, who's going to be complaining about this and that. Okay, you're sober. You're not drinking, but you don't have a job. You don't have a career. You don't have a wife. So all you're doing is not drinking.
Yeah, some people make that their job.
You know, what good is life?
Meetings. Yeah.
I want to get a person to where they're not drinking, but I want them to start enjoying life because God has so much more for your life than you even realize.
Ain't that the truth?
For me, I love the promises. I always wanted to read the promises. I love the promises. But, you know, so that's what my program is. I'll take you from day 1 to day 90 to get you set up for success, whether that's in your health, because I was with GNC for 30 years. Jesus. So if you need any health, fitness stuff I can help you with. I've had 8-9 figure earners on my show. So if you need help with finances, you can reach out to them. So it's kind of like an all-encompassing program for somebody that's saying, you know what, I'm sick and tired, but I need somebody to hold my hand sometimes.
Yep. And dude, if people will admit it, the best of the best, I don't care whether it's athletes, corporate CEOs, whatever, they all have coaches, presidents even. Tony Robbins has worked with some of the biggest, people in the world and presidents, and you name it. And, after I went through what I did 11 years ago, I was really stuck for a long time. Then I started getting coaches and that makes all the difference, And so you got to decide, am I going to invest in Richard, or am I going to still sit here and go in circles and wonder what to do,
Listen, we're not going to go to Malibu. We're not going to
right
in Malibu, and you're not going to have, pina coladas. This is going to be work. You're going to have to put the work in.
That's right.
Like I tell everybody, I got sober for $90. I hit 90 meetings in 90 days.
Yeah.
So, for that's my, so that's what I got going on. And, it's take it forward. It's never about the money because
exactly.
My uncle, he passed and he was a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
He said, I got all this money, but I can't buy a day.
That's right.
So, that's why I'm just trying to pay it forward. And
it's great perspective. Well, that's one of the things that I struggled with for a long time before I started doing this stuff was, I'd pay it forward and do whatever to help someone for free. But, the reality is we have to make a living to survive and we have to pay our bills. But, you just have to ask yourself, what's your life worth, and as long as it's somebody's treating you fair and honest, that's all that matters, but it's, to me, there's nothing, we can't invest in anything more than ourselves. I believe that. And you just got to find someone you resonate with. And somebody like you, I don't know who wouldn't resonate with, what you're doing and your story. And it's
people resonate with me, because I'm a little bit gruff, all tatted, but I guess people, and I don't have any judgment because I when I put all the dirty shit I did out in my book,
right,
judgment on anybody of all the mistakes that I've made.
Yeah, exactly. But and that's the thing too. I think that you've nailed, it's not going to be in Malibu, it's not going to have pina coladas. Well, that's not what someone needs. Someone needs the truth, and is also willing to put in that work, so.
Because I always tell everybody, if you're going to do, the hardest thing I've ever had to do was the fourth and the fifth step.
Yeah.
That was the hardest thing ever. And I did the fourth like 5 times. I did it,
Yeah.
Being able to be open and honest and that's the big thing, is being able to just being open and honest with somebody.
Yeah.
And, and
you're not be open and honest with yourself first.
and then, I think somebody once said, I don't remember who, they said, if you are your own sponsor, you have a fool for a sponsor.
That's right.
So
true. Yeah.
So I'm trying to pay it forward, brother. That's it.
Dude, well, that's awesome, man. So did you have any siblings growing up? Was you just an only child?
I was an only child. I got 3 stepsisters, and it's going to be interesting tomorrow. Don't know what I'm going to do, but just going to be there because me and my dad, we didn't get along. But a lot of it, and I wrote about it in my book, 80 to 90% of it was me. Because I just get back from Germany, and I just got back from Oktoberfest in Germany, partying in Oktoberfest, and now I get kicked out of the military. Now my parents want me home by 10 o'clock.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't work.
No
sense.
They told me, well, it's our house.
If under my roof, it's my rules.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So I did. But I didn't realize that, I didn't realize why until I became his dad. Because he was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, working 2 jobs just to put the roof over our head and food in our stomachs. So, but I didn't realize that until I became an older man. And now, now we rekindled, but, a lot of times, they say self-awareness is an MFer.
It is, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, as teenagers, we think we know it all. That's for sure, but it takes a little bit of that's thing. That's why I think there's value with somebody like you. There's coaches are a dime a dozen these days, but if you're working with somebody that doesn't have the life experience, you're making a big mistake.
Like the great poet and great actor Rodney Piper once said, once I think I have all the answers, life starts changing the questions. So as I get older, I think I have more questions than I do answers.
Yes, I would agree with that. But that's the thing, is you realize that you realize you don't have them all.
Yeah.
That's the key. So, well, awesome, brother. Where can people find you?
Well, they can go to Vertical Momentum. If you just go into your search bar and hit Vertical Momentum podcast, we're on the first 3 pages of Google, so we're everywhere.
Awesome.
Or they can hashtag the Comeback Coach, and they can find me everywhere. And or just Richard Kaufman. Either you can find me. You guys can anybody struggling out there, you can direct message me. I'm big on LinkedIn. That's where my favorite place is, but you can direct message me on Messenger, and we can if you need somebody to talk to. I'm open to talk anytime, no charge, 7 days a week, whatever you need. I got you.
Yep. That's the same way. Where can people find your book?
It is right now on Amazon Kindle, but I'm actually, if they go to, and I'll send you the link to where they can actually get the book right now. It's $10.97 plus bonuses, plus also you can't see it because the background, but we came out with our own coffee.
Oh, cool.
Vertical Coffee, and you can actually get it delivered right to your doorstep.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and it's high powered coffee, so it's 1 cup of coffee is equal to 3 regular cups of coffee.
Damn.
So and then you can also, in that same link, if you want to follow our podcast, if you want to follow our newsletter, you can do all that for $10.97.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll have all that stuff down in the show notes, and that's great. Well, I appreciate your time, man, and I know you're busy, so thanks for squeezing me in. And
I do
awesome.
Apologize about tomorrow being able to.
Dude, no worries. This worked out just fine.
But I can't wait to get together and be able to sit and just to BS, and hopefully one day get to meet in person and go have lunch sometime. Yeah,
I look forward to it. I definitely want to stay in touch, and let's go out and make a difference, man. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
Okay, well, travel safe, and God bless you with what you're going through. I know, like you said, your dad knows where he's going, and I understand all that. But it's transition, it's change. So my thoughts will be with you guys, my prayers.
Thank you.
You got it.
Right. God bless you,
buddy.
guys.
Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you.